When my cousin Veronica stood up during Grandma's will reading and pointed at me saying, "She doesn't deserve a penny," I thought I'd lost everything. But then the lawyer pulled out his laptop and said 7 words that made everyone in that room turn pale. "Let me show you who the real thief is." My name is Melanie, and I'm about to tell you how my grandmother orchestrated the most brilliant revenge from beyond the grave, catching a thief none of us suspected while teaching our entire family a lesson we'd never forget. It was a Tuesday afternoon in September, and we were all gathered in Grandma Dottie's Victorian house, the one with the wraparound porch and the rose bushes she'd planted 40 years ago, the same house where I'd spent every Sunday for the past 3 years, helping her with groceries, teaching her how to use her iPhone, and listening to her stories about running the most popular bakery in town. The living room was packed with family members I hadn't seen since the funeral 3 weeks earlier. My mother Janet sat beside me, her hand occasionally squeezing mine for comfort. My younger brother Wesley lounged against the wall, his artist's eye probably already calculating the value of Grandma's paintings. Uncle Robert had claimed the leather armchair like it was already his, while his wife Priscilla kept checking her phone, probably updating her Instagram followers about being at a family estate meeting. And then there was Veronica, my cousin, sitting directly across from me in her designer suit, her perfectly manicured nails tapping against her Louis Vuitton purse. She'd always been the golden child of the family, the successful real estate agent who drove a Tesla and lived in a downtown high-rise. She looked at me with barely concealed contempt, probably thinking about how a simple elementary school teacher like me had somehow wormed my way into Grandma's heart. Mr. Theodore Brennan, Grandma's lawyer for the past 30 years, cleared his throat as he opened the manila folder containing her will. He was a distinguished man in his 60s with silver hair and kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. Grandma always said he was the only lawyer in town she trusted, which was saying something since she didn't trust easily after Grandpa died. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. Everyone knew Grandma had money. The house alone was worth over $1 million, and that didn't include her savings, the antique collection, or the valuable jewelry pieces she'd accumulated over the years. Well, the jewelry that hadn't mysteriously disappeared in the months before she died. "Before we begin," Mr. Brennan said, adjusting his glasses, "Mrs. Chen wanted me to tell you all that she loved each and every one of you, despite your flaws. That should have been our first warning that something unusual was about to happen, but we were all too focused on what we might inherit to notice the subtle smile playing at the corner of the lawyer's mouth. The smell hit me first when I walked through Grandma Dottie's front door that Tuesday afternoon. Cinnamon rolls, her signature scent that had filled this house for as long as I could remember. It was impossible, of course. No one had baked here since she died 3 weeks ago, but somehow the walls themselves had absorbed decades of her baking, releasing that comforting aroma like a final goodbye. I straightened my teaching dress, the one with tiny daisies that Grandma always said made me look like sunshine. It felt appropriate to wear something she loved, even if Veronica would probably make some snide comment about my quaint fashion choices. As an elementary school teacher, I didn't make much money, but Grandma never cared about designer labels or fancy cars. She cared about showing up. "Melanie, honey, you're here," my mother Janet said, pulling me into a hug near the grandfather clock in the foyer. Her eyes were red-rimmed but determined. Mom was the youngest of Grandma's children, the sensitive one who inherited Grandma's kindness, but not her steel backbone. "I saved us seats together. Your Uncle Robert's already trying to claim the best spot like this is some kind of auction." The living room had been rearranged for the occasion. Someone, probably Mr. Brennan's assistant, had brought in extra chairs from the dining room and arranged them in a semicircle facing the fireplace where the lawyer had set up his temporary workspace. The September sun filtered through the lace curtains, casting patterns on the hardwood floors I'd helped Grandma polish just a month ago. "Look who decided to grace us with her presence." Veronica's voice cut through the room like a scalpel. She was examining her reflection in Grandma's antique mirror, adjusting a pearl necklace that looked suspiciously similar to one from Grandma's collection. "I thought maybe you'd be too busy with your little kindergartners to show up." "Third graders, actually," I replied, keeping my voice level. "And of course I'm here. Grandma would want all of us together." Wesley appeared at my side, his paint-stained fingers a stark contrast to the formal atmosphere. Ignore her, Mel. She's just bitter because Grandma never fell for her fake charm offensive. It was true. In the last 3 years, after Grandpa passed, I'd been the only grandchild who regularly visited. Every Sunday without fail, I'd drive over with groceries, spend hours helping Grandma navigate the modern world, setting up her tablet, teaching her how to video call, organizing her medications, and simply sitting with her while she told stories about the bakery she and Grandpa had run for 40 years. Veronica visited exactly twice a year, Christmas and Grandma's birthday. She'd sweep in with expensive gifts, stay for precisely 2 hours, and leave with complaints about the drive from downtown. Uncle Robert wasn't much better, showing up occasionally to pressure Grandma about selling the house and moving into a nice assisted living facility that would coincidentally free up her assets. "Everyone, please take your seats," Mr. Brennan announced, pulling out a thick folder and his laptop. "We have quite a bit to cover today." Aunt Priscilla rushed in, apologizing for being late while simultaneously live streaming to her followers. "Sorry, everyone. Traffic was insane. You wouldn't believe how hard it is to get here from the suburbs." She air-kissed Uncle Robert and positioned herself where the light was most flattering. As we settled into our seats, I couldn't help but notice how different the house felt without Grandma in it. The walls were lined with family photos spanning decades. Grandma and Grandpa's wedding, their bakery's grand opening, birthdays, graduations, and holiday gatherings. In recent photos, I appeared more and more frequently, usually helping Grandma with something or sitting beside her at the kitchen table, both of us covered in flour from attempting her famous recipes. "Before Mr. Brennan begins," Uncle Robert said, standing like he was addressing a board meeting, "I think we should acknowledge that Mother's final years were difficult. Her mind wasn't what it used to be." My mother tensed beside me. "Robert, don't you dare. Mama was sharp as a tack until the very end." "I'm just saying," he continued, his car salesman's smile not reaching his eyes, "that certain influences might have affected her decision-making. Some people had more access than others, more opportunities to, shall we say, make an impression." He wasn't looking at me, but everyone knew exactly who he meant. The accusation hung in the air like smoke. I felt my cheeks burn, remembering all those Sundays I'd spent here, not for any inheritance, but because I genuinely loved my grandmother. She taught me to bake, told me stories about her childhood, and gave me advice about everything from teaching to relationships. Mr. Brennan cleared his throat again, his expression unreadable as he opened the will. "Shall we begin with Dorothy Chen's final wishes?" The room fell silent, everyone leaning forward slightly, ready to learn how Grandma had divided her earthly possessions. None of us had any idea we were about to witness something far more valuable than money or property. We were about to see the truth. Mr. Brennan adjusted his wire-rimmed glasses and began reading in his measured professional voice. "I, Dorothy Chen, being of sound mind and body, do hereby declare this to be my last will and testament." The formal language felt strange applied to Grandma, who once told me that legal documents were just fancy ways of saying simple things. But here we were, listening to her final wishes, filtered through legal terminology. "To my son, Robert Chen, I leave my antique clock collection, valued at approximately $30,000, and the sum of $25,000 to help with what I know are difficult business circumstances." Uncle Robert shifted in his chair, his jaw tightening. He'd probably expected more, much more. The clock collection was valuable, sure, but everyone knew he'd been counting on enough money to save his struggling dealership. "To my daughter-in-law, Priscilla Chen, I leave my china set and $5,000 to pursue her creative endeavors." Priscilla's face fell so fast I almost felt sorry for her. $5,000 wouldn't even cover her monthly shopping sprees. "To my grandson, Wesley Chen, I leave my art collection and $30,000 to support his artistic journey, on the condition that he promises to never give up on his dreams." Wesley's eyes widened. $30,000 was more than he'd made in the last 2 years combined. He looked at me with surprise and genuine happiness. "To my daughter, Janet Chen, I leave my personal jewelry collection, except for the pieces specified elsewhere, and the sum of $50,000. Mom gasped softly beside me, tears forming in her eyes. The jewelry included Grandma's wedding ring and the emerald brooch Grandpa had given her for their anniversary. To my granddaughter, Veronica Chen," Mr. Brennan continued, and Veronica sat up straighter, her lips already forming a satisfied smile. "I leave the bronze butterfly brooch she always admired and the sum of $10,000. The smile vanished. "What? That's it? A brooch and $10,000? Veronica's voice pitched higher with each word. "This is insane." Mr. Brennan held up his hand. "Please allow me to continue. The remainder of my estate, including the house, all remaining financial assets, and the contents of my safety deposit box, I leave to—" "Stop right there." Veronica shot to her feet, her face flushed with anger. "Before you say another word, there's something everyone needs to know." The room went silent. Even Priscilla stopped checking her phone. "We all know who's about to get everything, don't we?" Veronica's perfectly manicured finger pointed directly at me. Sweet little Melanie, the devoted granddaughter who just happened to be here every single week. "Veronica, sit down," my mother said sharply. "No, Aunt Janet, I won't sit down. Not when we all know what's been happening. Has anyone else noticed that Grandma's valuable pieces started disappearing about 6 months ago? The pearl necklace Grandpa gave her for their 50th anniversary? Gone. The vintage Cartier watch? Vanished. The diamond earrings she wore to my college graduation? Nowhere to be found. My stomach dropped. I knew about the missing items. Grandma had mentioned them to me, seeming more puzzled than upset. I'd helped her look for them, assuming she'd misplaced them. Uncle Robert stood up, backing his daughter. "Veronica's right." I'd been thinking the same thing, but didn't want to say anything. Melanie was the only one with regular access to the house. She had keys. She knew the alarm code. She was here alone with Mother every Sunday. "You can't be serious," Wesley said, pushing off from the wall. "Mel would never steal from Grandma." "Wouldn't she?" Aunt Priscilla chimed in, suddenly interested in the drama. "I heard from my book club that someone saw Melanie at that pawn shop downtown, the expensive one that deals in estate jewelry. That was true, but twisted. I'd gone there with Grandma to have some pieces appraised for insurance purposes, but explaining that now would sound like an excuse." "She doesn't deserve a penny," Veronica declared, her voice ringing with conviction. "She's been stealing from Grandma for months, probably longer, playing the devoted granddaughter while robbing her blind." The room erupted. Uncle Robert nodded vigorously. "We should contest the will." "Mother wasn't in her right mind if she left everything to a thief." "How dare you?" my mother said, standing to face her brother. "Melanie loved Mother more than any of you." "Love doesn't explain missing jewelry, Janet," Veronica shot back. "Face facts. Your daughter played the long game and now she wants her payout." I sat frozen, unable to speak. The accusations flew around me like shrapnel. Even Mom's defense of me started to waver as more family members began nodding along with Veronica's theory. "The timing is suspicious," someone muttered. "She did have opportunity," another voice agreed. Mr. Brennan watched the chaos unfold with an expression I couldn't quite read. He made no move to interrupt or continue reading. It was as if he was waiting for something, or someone, to finish playing their hand. Mr. Brennan raised his hand slowly, commanding silence with a gesture that reminded me why Grandma had trusted him for 3 decades. The shouting gradually died down, though Veronica remained standing, her chest heaving with righteous indignation. "If I may continue," he said, his voice carrying a weight that made everyone settle back into their seats. "Mrs. Chen anticipated this exact scenario. In fact, she left me with very specific instructions for this moment." He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a laptop, modern and sleek, which seemed out of place among the antique furniture and vintage photographs. "Your grandmother was quite remarkable, you know. At 78, she embraced technology with an enthusiasm that would put people a quarter of her age to shame." "What does that have to do with anything?" Uncle Robert demanded, though his voice had lost some of its earlier confidence. "Everything, Mr. Chen. You see, 6 months ago, after the first items went missing, your mother came to me with a request. She wanted to install security cameras in her home, hidden ones." The color drained from Veronica's face so fast I thought she might faint. "That's illegal. You can't record people without their consent." "Actually," Mr. Brennan replied calmly, "one can record anything they wish in their own home, especially when they suspect they're being robbed." Mrs. Chen was quite within her. Rights. He connected the laptop to the flat-screen TV that Uncle Robert had bought Grandma last Christmas, insisting she needed to join the 21st century. The irony wasn't lost on me now. "Melanie," Mr. Brennan said, turning to me for the first time, "do you remember helping your grandmother set up a cloud storage system about 6 months ago?" I nodded, my voice finally returning. "She said she wanted to preserve family memories digitally. I helped her scan old photos and set up automatic backups from her devices." "That wasn't all she was preserving," Mr. Brennan said with a small smile. "The security system she had installed was connected to that same cloud storage. Every piece of footage was automatically uploaded and saved." "This is ridiculous," Veronica said, but her voice shook. "Even if there are cameras, they won't show anything because Melanie was careful. I mean, because nothing happened." Wesley let out a short laugh. "Nice slip there, cousin." Mr. Brennan pulled up a folder on the laptop labeled Evidence. Inside were dozens of video files, each tagged with dates and times. "Before I show you what Mrs. Chen collected, let me read the rest of her will." The part that Veronica so rudely interrupted. He pulled the will back in front of him and found his place. "The remainder of my estate, including the house, all remaining financial assets, and the contents of my safety deposit box, I leave to the one who helped me catch the thief in this family." "What kind of cryptic nonsense is that?" Uncle Robert sputtered. "It's not cryptic at all," Mr. Brennan replied. "Mrs. Chen knew someone was stealing from her. She also knew that confronting them directly would only cause denials and family drama. So she decided to gather proof. Melanie, unknowingly, helped her set up the very system that would reveal the truth." My mind raced back to those Sunday afternoons. Grandma asking about motion sensors, about how Ring doorbells worked, about whether cameras could record in low light. I thought she was just curious, maybe a little paranoid living alone in a big house. I'd answered all her questions, helped her research different systems, even helped her create the cloud account that would store everything. "She played us," Aunt Priscilla whispered, and for once she wasn't wrong. "Mrs. Chen was a brilliant woman," Mr. Brennan confirmed. "She knew that whoever was stealing from her would eventually reveal themselves, especially if they thought they were getting away with it. She also knew that the real thief would be the first to point fingers at others when the will was read." All eyes turned to Veronica, who had indeed been the first to make accusations. "That doesn't prove anything," she said, but her perfectly composed facade was cracking. Anyone could have made those accusations. They were logical conclusions. "Perhaps," Mr. Brennan said, clicking on the first video file, "but logic and truth are often two very different things. Your grandmother's will continues with one more important line. The truth will be revealed through the evidence I've collected, and justice, though delayed, will not be denied." The TV screen came to life, showing a clear view of Grandma's living room. The timestamp in the corner read 4 months ago, 2:47 p.m., a Tuesday. I would have been at school teaching my third graders about photosynthesis. "No," Veronica said, taking a step backward. "You can't do this. I want a lawyer." "I am a lawyer," Mr. Brennan reminded her, "and you're free to leave any time. But if you do, you'll miss the most interesting part of your grandmother's final message." Nobody moved. Even Veronica, despite her protest, stood frozen, watching as her carefully constructed lies were about to come crashing down around her. The security footage began to play, crystal clear, despite being from a hidden camera. Grandma must have paid for the best system available. The timestamp showed 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon 4 months ago. I remembered that day specifically because my class had been putting on a play about the water cycle, and I'd stayed late to help clean up the cardboard clouds and paper raindrops. On the screen, the front door opened, and Veronica walked in using a key. She moved with purpose, no hesitation, heading straight upstairs to Grandma's bedroom. The camera angle switched, following her movement through the house. She went directly to the mahogany jewelry box on Grandma's dresser and opened it with practiced ease. "That proves nothing," Veronica said quickly. "Grandma gave me permission to borrow jewelry sometimes." Mr. Brennan clicked to another file without responding. This footage showed Veronica taking out the pearl necklace, the one Grandpa had given Grandma for their 50th anniversary, and slipping it into her purse. She then rearranged the remaining jewelry to hide the gap, even dust polishing the spot where it had lain. The next clip was from a different location entirely. A pawn shop downtown, the upscale one that specialized in estate jewelry. Veronica walked in, carrying the same purse, talked to the owner, and pulled out the pearl necklace. The camera caught her accepting cash, counting it, and signing paperwork. "You followed me?" Veronica's voice cracked. "That's stalking." "No," Mr. Brennan said mildly. "Your grandmother simply asked me to verify where her belongings ended up. Pawn shops keep excellent records, by the way. They have to, by law." The room was deathly quiet except for the hum of the laptop. Uncle Robert had sunk back into his chair, his face pale. But Mr. Brennan wasn't done. He clicked on another file, dated 2 months ago. This footage was from Grandma's kitchen. Uncle Robert and Veronica sat at the round table where I'd shared so many cups of tea with Grandma. Their voices came through clearly. "Once we convince everyone it's Melanie, Mom will have to change the will," Uncle Robert said, helping himself to cookies from Grandma's cookie jar. "I already planted the seed with Aunt Priscilla," Veronica replied. "She's been spreading it at her book club. By the time the will is read, everyone will believe Melanie's been stealing." "Good. I need that money for the dealership. I'm 3 months behind on loans. The bank's threatening foreclosure. And I need it for the IRS. They're breathing down my neck about those unreported commissions. I've been hiding cash sales for 2 years." "How much did you get for Mom's pearl necklace?" $8,000. The Cartier watch brought in $12,000. The diamond earrings were worth $15. $35,000, Uncle Robert whistled. "That's good money." "It would be better if we got everything," Veronica said. "The house alone is worth over $1 million. If we can make everyone believe Melanie's a thief, we can contest the will. Say Mom was manipulated. Priscilla's already on board. She thinks Melanie's been suspicious for months." They clinked coffee cups like they were celebrating a business deal. Mr. Brennan paused the video. The silence in the room was suffocating. Aunt Priscilla had covered her mouth with both hands, staring at her husband in horror. My mother gripped my hand so tightly it hurt. Wesley stood frozen against the wall, his artist's eye taking in a different kind of picture than he'd ever imagined. "There's one more video," Mr. Brennan said quietly. "This one was recorded by Mrs. Chen herself, the week before she passed." The screen changed to show Grandma sitting in her favorite wingback chair, the one by the window where she loved to watch the birds. She looked directly at the camera, her eyes sharp and knowing. "If you're watching this, then I'm gone. And the truth has finally come out. I've known for months what Robert and Veronica were doing. I saw them take my things, heard them plan their lies, watched them try to destroy Melanie's reputation." Grandma paused, adjusting her glasses. "Melanie, sweetheart, you helped me more than you know. Not just with the technology, though that was invaluable. You helped me see who in this family actually loved me versus who loved what I could give them. Every Sunday you came here expecting nothing, bringing everything. Your time, your patience, your genuine care." She looked directly into the camera, as if seeing all of us. "Robert, Veronica, I'm disappointed but not surprised. Greed has been eating at you both for years. I forgive you, but forgiveness doesn't mean freedom from consequences. The police have copies of these videos. What happens next depends on whether you return what you stole and make amends." The video continued. "The house, the money, everything goes to Melanie. She knows what to do with it. We talked about her dreams of opening a community center, a place where kids could learn and grow. That's a legacy I can be proud of." Grandma smiled then, that mischievous grin I remembered from when she'd beat everyone at cards. "I may have been old, but I wasn't stupid. And thanks to my brilliant granddaughter teaching me about clouds and cameras, I got to catch the real thieves red-handed. Sometimes the best revenge isn't served cold. Sometimes it's served with video evidence." The video ended with Grandma winking at the camera, and for a moment nobody moved. Then Veronica bolted for the door, but Mr. Brennan's voice stopped her cold. "I wouldn't leave just yet, Miss Chen. As your grandmother mentioned, the police have copies of these videos. Detective Morrison is actually waiting outside. You can either return the stolen items voluntarily, or he'll be happy to escort you to the station." Veronica's designer heels clicked to a stop. She turned around, her face a mask of rage and desperation. "This is entrapment. I'll sue." "Sue who?" Mr. Brennan asked calmly. "Your deceased grandmother for protecting her property? Me for executing her legal will? The police for investigating grand larceny? You stole $35,000 worth of jewelry. That's a felony." Uncle Robert finally found his voice, though it came out as barely a whisper. "Mom knew the whole time?" "She knew from the first theft," Mr. Brennan confirmed. "She came to me immediately, but she wanted to see how far you'd go. More importantly, she wanted to protect Melanie from your false accusations." Aunt Priscilla stood up, moving away from Uncle Robert like he was contagious. "You told me Melanie was stealing. You made me spread those rumors. I trusted you." "You were eager enough to believe it," Wesley said, finding his voice. "Nobody forced you to gossip at your book club." Mr. Brennan pulled out another document. "Mrs. Chen left instructions for restitution. Veronica, you have 30 days to return the full $35,000 plus interest. Uncle Robert, your involvement in the conspiracy means you forfeit your inheritance entirely. The clock collection and $25,000 will be added to Melanie's inheritance." "You can't do that," Uncle Robert shouted. "Actually, I can. There's a morality clause in the will. Any beneficiary convicted of or admitting to crimes against Mrs. Chen forfeits their inheritance. The video clearly shows you conspiring to commit fraud." My mother finally spoke, her voice shaking with anger. "You tried to destroy my daughter's reputation. Your own niece. How could you?" "The dealership was failing," Uncle Robert said weakly. "I was desperate." "So you decided to rob your mother and frame your niece?" Mom stood up, pulling me with her. "You're pathetic." Mr. Brennan handed me an envelope. "This is from your grandmother, Melanie. She wanted you to read it after everything was revealed." I opened it with trembling hands. Grandma's handwriting, slightly shaky but still readable, filled the page. "My dearest Melanie, by now the wolves have shown their teeth, and you've seen who they really are. Don't let their betrayal harden your heart. They'll face their consequences, but you have better things to focus on. The house is yours, all $2.8 million of it, plus my savings. But more importantly, I'm leaving you my recipes, including the secret cinnamon roll recipe that made our bakery famous. It's in the safety deposit box, along with Grandpa's love letters to me and the seed money for your community center. You taught me that technology could do more than just make calls or send messages. It could reveal truth, protect the innocent, and ensure justice. Who knew an old lady could catch thieves with a smartphone and some hidden cameras? Turn the house into something beautiful. Make it a place where children learn, where families gather, where love means more than money. That's a legacy worth leaving. Keep visiting me at the cemetery. Tell me about your students, your life, your dreams. I'll be listening, probably laughing at how Veronica and Robert turned out. Remember, sweetheart, family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up when you need them. You showed up every Sunday, not for an inheritance, but for love. That's why everything is yours. All my love, Grandma Dottie. P.S. Make Veronica work for her forgiveness. Maybe volunteer at your community center. Manual labor might teach her what real value means. 6 months later, I stood in the transformed Victorian house. The living room where the will was read had become a reading corner for kids. The kitchen where Uncle Robert and Veronica planned their scheme was now a teaching kitchen where I taught Grandma's recipes to anyone who wanted to learn. The smell of cinnamon rolls filled the air every Thursday. Veronica worked off her debt doing community service at the center. She'd lost her real estate license after the IRS investigation and now worked at the very pawn shop where she'd sold Grandma's jewelry. Uncle Robert's dealership went under, but he found work as a mechanic, honest work for the first time in years. He hasn't spoken to me since the will reading. Wesley painted a mural of Grandma on the side of the house, depicting her with angel wings and a mischievous smile, holding a video camera. Mom helps me run the center, teaching kids art and music. Every Thursday afternoon, I visit Grandma's grave with fresh cinnamon rolls. I tell her about the children we're helping, the families we're feeding, the community we're building. Sometimes I swear I can hear her laughing, especially when I mention that Detective Morrison asked Veronica out on a date, not knowing her history. Grandma always said the truth has a way of surfacing. I tell people who ask about the inheritance. She also said that karma had a sense of humor. Turns out she was right about both. She didn't just leave me money and property, she left me the truth, protected my reputation, and showed me who really deserved to be called family. That was worth more than any inheritance. The last thing Grandma ever said to me was, "Technology is wonderful, dear, but wisdom is better. Use both, and you'll never be fooled." I thought she was talking about computers. Turns out she was talking about life. If you enjoyed this story about how Grandma Dottie caught the real family thieves and delivered justice from beyond the grave, please give this video a thumbs up. It really helps other people discover these incredible true stories of family drama and ultimate redemption. What would you have done in Melanie's situation? Would you have suspected your own family members? Drop a comment below and share your thoughts or your own family inheritance stories. I read every single comment and heart the best ones. And if you want more shocking family revelations and stories about justice being served when least expected, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. I upload new stories every week that will leave you speechless and restore your faith in karma. Until next time, remember, sometimes the best inheritance isn't money, it's truth.